Hi, it's Patrick. In this video, I'm going to show you how to do the default page. I'm going to go much faster than previous videos, basically trying to less scaffolding with these last few projects. So you'll notice that really trying to push and build on what you already know. But the purpose of this assignment is to learn about what a default or an index homepage essentially is, how to create one, and then how to use a template. So in this example, Dr. Hung's Andy's page, it's called default.html. So a default page or a index page are essentially ways where you can have a shortcut to a website. So if I just go like this without naming the page, it's the same as if I typed in default.html. That's because that's what this page is really called. Now, in this case, and I spelled it wrong, if I spell it wrong as a perfect example, or if it wasn't actually there, like let's say that this one, if I wanted to try index.html, you'll notice that it won't work. And it comes up as a page not found. But the way this works is on websites. So let's take boisestate.edu. This homepage is actually called index.html. Now you'll notice that if I try to do HTML, because that's an older way, it won't work. You'll notice that if I try default.html, it won't work, or HTML. But in this case, the home page is index.html, and that's a very common one. And so by typing that in, I can get to the page, but the shortcut is I don't have to type it in, and I just can go like this. So back to EDTECH502 pages, we want you to create one essentially for your page. So you can see for the EDTECH2 server that this is, I believe it's default.html. Right? But notice that if I put the L, it gives me the wrong page. So that's basically how it works. So in this case, we're going to create basically a home page for your EDTECH2 site. This should have some basic information about you, links to the program, and other things. And so we're going to do this, but rather than create a page by scratch, we're going to use a template. Now, if you Google CSS templates, HTML5 templates, you'll find lots of things out there. And it's actually a really good idea to do from time to time, just so you can start seeing what is in vogue, what is the popular design trends that are happening. Now, some of these you'll find older ones, but you'll notice that especially with HTML5, a lot of them are responsive design because they want to adjust to whatever device someone's using. Now, they can be pretty complex too. And so if you just Google CSS templates, HTML5 templates, you're going to find lots out there. Now, a lot of them are meant more for like a WordPress or a blog, so they can be complicated. You can also find some really simple ones in Dreamweaver. And so if I go to Dreamweaver and if I go to File New, you'll notice that HTML, there's basically these two templates they provide. Previous versions of Dreamweaver used to have a lot more. In this case, these are the main ones that Dreamweaver offers now. And so you also have down here these things called an HTML template. These get more complicated where you actually make only a certain part of the page editable, so I recommend to stay away from those. We're just going to focus on using one of these. In this case, we're going to use this 2-column fixed right sidebar to basically create a home page for the EDTECH2. So I'm going to hit create, and it's going to prompt me to save this CSS file. You can see it's pretty complicated. So I'm going to call this default. And I'm going to save it in my styles folder. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a title. And I'm going to save the HTML as default.html. Now you could also do index, either one works, because the example goes by default, I'm using default. Now this is where we're going to do something different. We're not going to save it in the 502 page, we're going to save it at the root level of the site. I'm going to change this back to design because I like to work in design view. Click on CSS Designer. Now you'll notice that these things are commented out, these templates in Dreamweaver a lot. So take the time, read the comments. They should answer a lot of your questions. But in this case, I'm going to get rid of some of this stuff. So I'm going to get rid of that. Within the header, I'm going to type my name. I'm going to make that an H1. So, and it's good to look at the code to try to understand what's the basic layout. So it has this section here. Up here it has this H1. It's all set in an article tag. I can leave that for now. I'm going to get rid of that. Here's a second section. I'm going to get rid of that. Get rid of that one. And then down the footer, I'm going to get rid of that address, and I'm just going to type in my name. Put my cursor there, and I'm going to put the copyright. Go ahead and preview this. So you can see, so I have a basic page. I have a couple links over here, some CSS. I can get rid of that, and I'm going to move this over to the right and make a few more changes. So over here, you'll notice that if I click on this, it's using an aside tag. I don't really want that aside tag, so I'm going to get rid of that. And you can see that it's set up as a div. I have multiple links here. These are things that I could change to other things like Boise State, EDTECH, and then down here, because this is really an external link, I'll make it open in a new page. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my container, I'm going to click on default, and you can try to scroll down, or you can look for here, and you can see that it's actually, rather than using an ID, it's set up as a class, but the width is 960. It's set up to center, that looks good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on the sidebar, and I'm going to look where it says float. I'm going to have it float left, and then that just moved everything over the way I wanted. I'm going to click on this padding, my H1. Notice how it is setting a lot of things up, so I'm going to actually just do it for my header. And I'm going to add 25 pixels for padding up top, 5 pixels down below. And then now this is where I could play with other things. You know, my footer, I tend to like to make the text smaller. I tend to like it, have it in the center. And notice how when I did that, it did it for all of these items. And that's just because the way that they've set this up. So this becomes where it's helpful to look at how they've actually done all this. So it's down here, and so actually in this case I don't want this to be the case for all of these. So for now I'm just gonna change this to footer. You'll notice that right here I have two different footers, so these are the kinds of things that I want to look at and see how I can combine these. Make sure there's no redundancy, and I'm just going to double check for my header. And there's my header, so I think I lost that padding, so I'll just do padding top. So this is where I could play with some of the color too. I could sit here and click on the header, look at the color that they've used. Maybe I want to use something like that. Maybe I want to change the font to something like this. I could click on this div and see what the background it's doing, and maybe I don't want that. So see how that got rid of that. And then down here I'm going to actually click on my footer, and so this is obviously, you know, different templates are going to give you different options. You know, I could down on my footer add a top border. So this gives you a basic idea. The only other two things, you know, besides obviously updating the text, updating your links, putting in an image, is I would probably make my footer a little smaller and improve the proximity of my headings. And so let's start with the headings. And so that's an H2. And so all of these, it's actually showing up. And so that's just the way that they've chosen to group things together. So I'm going to do 0 pixels for the margin at the bottom, and then I'm going to click on my paragraph tag, and notice how it's set that up to be the same. And so this is where you just got to pay attention with working with templates. Sometimes they can save you a lot of time, other times you can find that it's just causing you more heartache. And it's really, I think it comes down to when you didn't write all the code yourself originally, sometimes it's a guessing game to figure out, well, what really is going on here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put my paragraph, margin top, 0 pixels, closing curly brace. You can see how that just improved that proximity. That looks pretty good there. Click on my footer and I can just see all of that padding that it has. I keep double checking that it's showing up there, and this is where I can see that that's where that 25. So I think I added that earlier by accident, but so there it goes. I mean, this is a real basic idea of how you might take a template, specifically a Dreamweaver template, and do some basic things to create a home page for your EDTECH502 page. So I'm going to upload this and we'll check it out. Okay, there it is. I can see that I've uploaded it. In my root level, you'll have a slash here. It won't say your name, but that's fine. So there it is. So if I go to my site and type in default.html, I will see it. And then equally, if I get rid of that default HTML, it will appear appropriately as well. And hopefully you can see the benefits of finding templates or using templates in Dreamweaver to quickly develop pages and content for the web. Thanks.